All right. Hello again, YouTube. So before I start the second one, I do want to just give a thank you to everyone who supported the first video. I really appreciate like all the interactions, all the nice comments that I got. It was very nice to see. And I don't know, you guys are awesome. So for this second video, I plan to make it a pretty long one. This is going to be like a more proper introduction to the channel. I'm going to be sharing some pretty deep personal experiences, kind of like my entire background history. Growing up and basically like how I discovered the gym and how me starting to go to the gym was basically like the catalyst for me improving my life. The reason I wanted to make this video is because I see like a very common sentiment online about, I guess like gym cell behavior. So just dudes who go to the gym and they think that they're improving their life when they're really not. And I think that this can be true. Maybe that's the topic for another video, but I do think that it's a little bit overplayed. I see that kind of sentiment said online. And I think that while the gym isn't going to turn you into this like giga chad that pulls women, it's going to be a start for you. It's going to be that rock in your life that can hold you down and, allow you to build the confidence and kind of discipline to make progress in any of your goals. So, I don't know. Yeah, this video is probably going to contain some very like unintentional gems that I don't even like mean to share. But yeah, we'll get on with it. I'm going to try to keep my language soft. A lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about will be pretty dark, but I don't want to downplay anything I live to. And I do really want to say before I start talking about this stuff that I'm not seeking like any kind of pity. I don't want to see a single comment that's like, I'm sorry that happened, or anything like that. I want people to hear my story and be motivated. Now in the middle of the video too, I do recommend like listening to this one because it's fairly long, but I will be flashing a couple of pictures of like my physique progress, but not just for the physique progress. I just want to show where I was at like physically and kind of just describe my mental state. Because I don't know, some of those old photos, I guess I look pretty rough. So it's almost like spiritual progress as well. So enough rambling, let's actually get started here. So with some very early background, I grew up in the suburbs of New York. I was like just outside the city, but it was very isolating. And from my earliest memory, from when I was around 2 years old, my mom had a brain tumor that she had to get removed. The doctor messed it up, and she became fully physically disabled. And at the time, I was just living with my father and then my mom's grandparents. So this situation was like pretty difficult. I think that it obviously caused some problems later down the line, and probably earlier in my life as well. I wouldn't realize that for a while though. I am grateful that my dad stayed around, but he definitely did have a lot of abusive qualities due to the stress of the situation, obviously, right? So during this time, I grew up completely sedentary, and this is like a very common thing nowadays. I do remember all the kids in my neighborhood being way more physically active than me. This is kind of when the internet was first becoming a thing. My dad was a bodybuilder, like he was big into it, roider, everything. He couldn't compete due to a motorcycle accident, but he would try to push physical fitness on me very hard. And I didn't necessarily hate it, but like, damn, I just wanted to play League of Legends. So I was forced to go on runs and do push-ups. But most of the time, I was in there on my laptop just playing like Flash games. And I got that first laptop when I was 6 years old. So I did have fully unsupervised access on there. And again, this is like another thing that almost everybody in this generation can relate to, right? We all grew up with unsupervised internet access, more commonly now in the form of smartphones. But I don't know. I think that maybe you guys can relate to the feeling that I feel where it made you extremely smart and extremely ahead of your peers in some ways, but it absolutely like destroyed the quality of your life in other ways. I know a lot of people can relate to the gifted burnout feeling, like, you know, being a complete genius in school, remarkable grades, but like terrible socially, like not outgoing, not able to make friends, and like other people just find you weird. And just like also just like just other ways, just like you feel a little bit behind your peers. Basically, I remember that I was very, very funny and friendly in the lower grade levels. I was I was like finding a bunch of like internet humor, right? And I was just kind of repeating it in class, so I got along really well with people. But as the maturity level started to increase in school, I just got seen as annoying by teachers and other students, and it just quickly led to me getting bullied. And also, as the material in school got harder and as I started to prioritize gaming more, my grades started to go down. I just slowly liked screens more and more than the real world. And I know that's a really common thing nowadays, like just using that screen to just get away from the real world. I think that's a problem in and of itself. So I include all of that because I almost feel like a patient zero for this like type of sentiment of like screen addiction nowadays. Now, like I said earlier, it's more commonly an addiction to smartphones nowadays, but I started off with like a PC. Everywhere I go online nowadays, I seem to find some kind of self-help content. I don't know if you guys have seen as well, but videos about unplugging from the internet, quitting TikTok, limiting your screen time, quitting graphic online content. Like, just people are trying to now just get away from this stuff, and people are realizing the consequences that it has on their mental. I felt like the weird one out growing up for being on my my computer all the time, but honestly nowadays, the way I behaved back then is the norm. It's completely flipped, and now you're the weird one out if you're not staring at your phone everywhere you're at. So how funny is that? So fast forward to the end of middle school, my grades were pretty mediocre, and I had picked up just nasty habits online, looking at things that I shouldn't be looking at. You know, all the websites back then, the websites that still exist now, just stuff that I should not be looking at as a kid, and I feel like a victim for seeing that stuff. Not to victimize myself, but I do feel like I was hurt. And I mean, it's not entirely my fault, but we have to start where we stand, and we have to just work on those problems anyway. I started to kind of like rebel out a little bit at home, and my dad was already stressed out, so this kind of pushed him over the edge. Like, you start going through that, like, not even young adult, but like teenager phase of just trying to rebel against your parents, and like he just could not handle that. I mean, like I mean, I'm his only child. He hasn't had any kid before, and so he coped with that in not the best way. Like, even to this day, he struggles to cope with me being my own person. And this is when I had my first run-in with depression. I was coping. I didn't realize it back then, but like just playing video games all day, watching porn all day, like fucking Batman couldn't get this info out of me. I would just abuse those things to escape the mental state that I was in. And I mean, like, I'm honestly not too uncomfortable with sharing that, because again, this is something that I see online a ton nowadays, and I mean, it's even more widespread than it used to be, and I would say even worse than it used to be, since companies have realized how to make these things more addictive than ever. Both for like gaming by adding like gambling aspects, fucking like videos, adding, you know, turning it into more like short form, just making them more eye-catching. They have analytics and psychologists at all these companies that just, you know, they determine all the marketing and how things are made, right? So I got to the point where these coping mechanisms weren't even enough. I abused them hardcore, as you'll see, and it gets worse. So I remember vividly on a walk home, I took a walk to get away from the house, right? And I end up in this park that I always went to go play in as a kid. And there was a man at the park. He was smoking a cigarette, and this bastard, he took 2 or 3 puffs off of it and he threw it. What a fucking waste, right? But anyways, I snatched that cigarette butt off the ground because, like, I thought cigarettes were the shit back then, right? And I just started smoking it. I left the park and just started fucking smoking it. And this would be my first experience with substances, right? I got a crazy rush from that cigarette. My 13-year-old me, that shit hit different, right? It hit different. And it hit so much that I went to the corner store. I bought a lighter, which the clerk shouldn't have even sold to me. I was very clearly underage. But I recalled, like, with that lighter, oh, there's a bunch of cigarette butts just sitting in the gutters on the sidewalk and in the street, right? So I go, like, cigarette farming. I pick up these cigarette butts. I'm lighting them. I'm smoking. I feel all fuzzy in the head. I feel great. And you know, I don't think this behavior is normal. I do think that I have a very addictive personality. I'll get into that more. I mean, obviously I will later in this video. But this would be kind of an omen to how the next few years of my life was going to go. So I finish up my time in New York, and my family decides to uproot and move to where I currently live, Las Vegas. My dad wanted to get my mom out of the house because my grandma, her mom, was giving her a shit ton of alcohol. I guess like my grandma felt bad that she was disabled, and my mom was basically becoming an alcoholic, and her mom was enabling her. So there was that. There was the weather. My parents wanted to move somewhere sunnier, and it was quite a culture shock for me. I was still like around 13 at this time, like turning 14, and it was a bit later in middle school. And I remember like I got home from school the first day crying because like what little social group I even had was completely gone. All these kids were acting different since they were being raised in a different environment. And I had the social skills of a rock, right? I had the social skills of a rock, like I said earlier. So I found it very hard to make friends. I didn't really carry myself in like the normie manner in school. It was very difficult. And then here, just to remind myself, I'll flash a picture on screen of the earliest photo I have, which is right around the time we first moved to Vegas. So, with effort, I was able to make friends, but these were the wrong type of friends. With my new interest in smoking, I just basically fell among the wrong crowd, right? So like I fell among the crowd of stoners. There was a couple kids that smoked weed that young. I don't know if this is common everywhere, but in Vegas, these middle schoolers are doing drugs. And I don't really remember it being like that in New York. So I don't know. Let me know if you could relate to that. But we were ripping pipe hits. We were smoking cigarettes, and then vapes hit the market. And we were all smoking the fucking Juul pods, puff bars. And we like, yeah, that's all we would really do. And this would also kind of be a predictor of my friendships during this time, pretty much all throughout high school. We were barely even friends. We would just really use each other to smoke and just like put our money together for drugs, right? I would be so like in order to make money for this like habit, I just learned that I could resell these things for profit. So I would start doing that. My grades at this point were getting abysmal. I don't think I passed a math class since like 8th grade. I started failing every math class, and I mean the school system just pushed me through anyway. And I just spent all my time kind of trying to escape the depression that originated from my home life and then was exacerbated by my substance use, because realistically I could have coped without these substances, but when you start getting dependent on them, I feel like it makes everything in your life feel like that much worse, because now your brain chemistry is messed up, your dopamine's low, your serotonin's low, and you just feel like you have to be high all the time, but eventually the high just becomes you feeling normal, but actually worse than you feeling normal. I'm not sure how to really put that, but I hope it makes sense. I would be constantly acting out in school. I would be skipping class. I would be getting disciplinary actions all the time. Obviously, it was not very good. So we'll go right forward to high school, as this is like when the next like major thing hit me. I was able to start getting my hands on much harder stuff. I know this is common, like around high school is when there's a lot of kids that are into this stuff. And since I got an early start and weed and nicotine wasn't doing it for me anymore, I was trying to get my hands on some better stuff. Better, right? Not better, but anyways. I started drinking. And I guess the stuff of choice that I would get my hands on were painkillers, number one, psychedelics. I was doing like every 2 weeks if I could. I was extremely fascinated with them. Dissociatives and MDMA. So I was kind of just spamming whatever I could find. I was still obviously like smoking as much weed as I can, vaping as much nicotine as I can on top of it, since those things were basically like breathing air at this point. And if I go back to, I got my Snapchat memories, since we were all using that back then. We were all using Snapchat, right? I just have pictures and pictures and pictures of all this stuff. And I think I'll flash a few more on screen. So contrary to my experience with screen addiction, which I think is extremely typical nowadays, I don't really think that my experience with substances is normal in any way. I definitely do just have a much more addictive personality than the regular guy, right? I don't really find myself relating to a lot of other peers about my use. I mean, I don't, yeah, I pretty much besides the screens, I think that everything else I was just at a degenerate level with. And whether that's my fault or not, who knows? But the point of me bringing all that up is I want to just kind of give hope to people that are struggling badly with that stuff, because I know there is probably a few of those people watching who have had like a similar experience to me. They fuck themselves early up with substances. Starting at a young age, you just get way more dependent. It's way harder to quit. But like, look at me now, man. Like, I'm out here. I'm in school. I got a nice car, girlfriend, good social life, and I live relatively normally. And nowadays, I don't crave the stuff. I honestly hate altering my sober mind. I enjoy the feeling of being healthy. And even when I go out and have a couple of beers or like smoke some cigars, I feel kind of wrong. Um, it's like I'm still like on the nicotine a little bit. I'll use some patches here and there, but either way, it's a long shot from where I used to be, and just recovery is possible for everybody. Recovery is like there's always hope for recovery. So if you're struggling like with that stuff right now, just don't give up. The most important thing I would say is to not give up. As long as you have that drive to get better and that drive to be healthy, you're automatically going to start seeing that through. As long as you're making quit attempts, you're trying to cut down your use, just stay where you're at, keep going, and you just need that one time where you have the right motivation and you will do it. Okay, so during my time in high school, I still had the social skills of a rock. I mean, like I said, my friendships were just us like sharing an addiction. So I started going online to make friends. And yeah, here's another thing that I can see a lot of other people can relate to, right? This was the era of Skype, MMOs, Roblox, and then eventually Discord, which is, you know, what people still use nowadays. Roblox as well. I mean, and this is going to tie into a lot of recent stuff with Roblox as well, if any of y'all have been following that. But I was getting myself into a bunch of trouble online, and a lot of people can relate to this. Like, I see a disgusting amount of people relating to this, unfortunately, but online essay, right? It's literally the controversy that Roblox just fell into. They just like, there was this pred catcher on their site who would legitimately get predators arrested. Like, he would generally be doing like some Chris Hansen shit. He was doing great. And they banned him from the platform for that. And I believe the CEO put out a statement about how like they want to keep predators on their platform. It's pretty ridiculous. Like, he didn't say it like that, obviously, but that's basically what he ended up conveying to everybody. So if y'all been following that, I digress. I think that I fell into this stuff because I was very desensitized to a lot of just like graphic content online, right? I think that's something that, I mean, it's just like, that's everybody in this generation. Like, we are so desensitized to tragedy. If you show a boomer a tragic event, that shit takes them out for weeks. Like, they hear about the Epstein files and they lose it for weeks. Whereas, like, look at us. You open up Instagram or whatever, and we're making memes of like Epstein, like dressed like Diddy, and it's ridiculous, right? Like, we are so desensitized to tragedy that we just turn it into jokes half the time. But this desensitization, unfortunately, I think it made me vulnerable to you know, meeting the wrong people online, meeting older people. They would try paying me for pictures. They would try to meet up with me. They were extremely manipulative, and I mean, it was terrible, right? But strangely, at that age, just I guess from the isolation, I almost found enjoyment in it. I don't want to. I'm trying to word this carefully so it don't come off the wrong way. But basically, I didn't know what I was doing was wrong, and I almost enjoyed the attention. Right? I enjoyed the attention that I was getting online, even though it was legitimately damaging the fuck out of me. But I did not realize it was damaging me until like much later, and this online essay would also make me vulnerable to a couple of real life events from women who were living nearby, just like a couple of times, just that type of thing. So I will add just like one more thing about like this essay, because it kind of, maybe it could tie into the way I present nowadays with my gender identity. I go by they, them. I honestly do not have much of a preference on pronouns. I let people use any, but like I formally go by they, them. And a lot of the essay that I experienced online was in the form of pink pilling. And if you're not familiar with this, it's basically to summarize, people who are into like gender bending, and they would try to manipulate me into questioning my identity. I don't think it's why I identify the way I do today, but it definitely puts some ideas in my head. I will get more into gender identity stuff in a later video and kind of expand on it. I know it's not very typical for like anyone in the fitness sphere to tackle that subject. So, I mean, I'm excited to put out content about that, honestly. But down the line, this like abuse and all of the graphic content I was seeing online, I just had a crazy struggle with my sexual health. And I mean, a lot of people are ending up relating to this. I mean, there's like, when you're 20 years old now, you're getting advertisements for Blue Chew and Cialis and Viagra. That's not normal. You're not really supposed to need that until you're older. But nowadays, people have a lot of sexual health issues. And I think that we could tie it into things like this, right? I'm sure we're going to see more and more things come out about it. But maybe the first like 10 times I had sex, like probably more, I did not enjoy it whatsoever. And we were not functioning properly, like just straight up. More things that could not be fucking tortured out of me. But I'm just telling you how it is, right? This damage definitely still lasts until today. I don't think my like intimate health is where it should be normally. And I mean, I'm not saying like, I don't know. I think that there's hope for me to be more normal with that. And I feel like I'm healing every day, but it still is something that I struggle with. And I'm able to be at like a fairly normal point with it, but there's always room for improvement. And on the substance side of things, this is when I started to face my consequences, right, for this lifestyle. So I was starting to deal with withdrawals, especially for the painkillers. I don't know if any of you have been through opiate withdrawals. It is hell, but there's that. And then the little independent sales thing I had going was starting to get me into trouble. Because at this point, I was upscaled a bit, right? And this would lead me to getting robbed at gunpoint. I would get in trouble with the cops. I would get in trouble at school. And it would just ruin a bunch of my friendships, like just straight up. And I mean, these friendships weren't very good, I'll add, because again, like we're using each other for drugs. And then at this point, I was getting into relationships where me and my girlfriend would also use each other for drugs. And obviously, like a relationship where you love drugs more than you love the other person is a recipe for disaster. So none of these went well. You could just imagine some of the fucked up shit that went on there. At this point at home, my parents really still weren't aware of what I was doing. My dad was stressed out enough, and they had me very late. At this point, my dad was like in his late 50s. He was just tired. He's still tired, but nowadays me and him get along fairly well. But at this point, back in high school, my relationship with him was just absolutely in the gutter, and I literally could not interact with the guy without a shouting match, argument, or even at times like a physical fight. We got really bad. I got locked up for fighting my dad one time. It was kind of hopeless for me to get through to him. It was hopeless for me to ask help from him. It was just not going well. And as for my mom, this is not my fault at all, but she ended up feeling absent in my life too, simply because of the fact that I was just so lazy and so preoccupied with drugs and my addiction that I didn't even get up out of my room to really speak to her. She's always been a complete sweetheart to me. She's very intelligent, and I love her with all my heart, but I did feel like I kind of grew up without her present in my life, mostly because of me. I will take full accountability for it. So this home situation kind of comes to a head, right? I end up thinking like I need to move out of this place as soon as possible. I want to move out of my parents' house. I'm 17 and I'm like, I'm going to need a real job to do this. So I end up getting a job at McDonald's, and surprisingly, this is like the best decision I ever made. I think a common theme with my life, by the way, I'm completely off script here, but I think a common theme with my life is things that are seen as terrible and things that are seen as like a dead end or a gutter. I find a way to make them work for me. So working at McDonald's, right? People are terrified to work in fast food. People are like, this is torture. This is a hell job. But I end up really enjoying the work environment. I get along really well with my coworkers, and I get this sense of competition while I'm at work. And I start feeling ashamed of coming into work drugged up and high every day and dragging the team down. maybe this is like my League of Legends mindset poking through, or like my fucking athletic mindset poking through, but I did not want to be like the person selling on the team. I didn't want to be the inter, right? If any of you indulge with like League, you know what I mean. So this job, this shitty fast food job, ended up being like the first catalyst really to getting my shit together. So I put down the weed, and it was very difficult. Like I remember like breaking down into like crying spells, being irrationally angry, not being able to eat or sleep. But after a week of that, I felt so much more like capable and sharper mentally. I was able to like I was like knocking out these orders at work. My customer service was immaculate, right? So I take note of this feeling, like that feeling of like, wow, like I feel more functional, more capable. This is great. Like I feel healthier. So I take note of that, and I then like immediately, not immediately really, but like at some point I begin to get off of the painkillers, try to wean myself off of those. And this was hell. Like I thought the withdrawals that I would get in between days of not having them were bad, right? But it turns out when you cold turkey them, that withdrawal just gets steeper and steeper and steeper before it goes away. So this forced me to take some days off of work. Luckily, they worked with my schedule. They understood, and I was pretty transparent with them what I was trying to do, right? And it was painful. I can't really describe painkiller withdrawals if you haven't had them, but I remember every inch of my body basically being sore, like I just worked out. It was like a burning, just like from the fucking end of my toe to the top of my head, everywhere. It was painful as hell. I couldn't sit still, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat. And I felt like I had the flu. Like my sinuses were all messed up. Like I was just nauseous, like 24/7. And this went on for like a good 2 weeks. I just had to like lay in my bed. It was absolutely terrible, but I made it through. And I'm very lucky to have like gotten off of that stuff. But this left pretty much only nicotine, and then the stuff I would do here and there, like psychedelics, which I also kind of started to like, they started to get a little bit boring for me. So that was no problem getting off. So I got rid of my two substances of choice. That's great, right? And at work now I was doing excellent. Like I felt like this was like the first time in a long time where I felt normal. And this just made me completely addicted to the feeling of like progress and self-help and improving myself. So yeah, I held that job for a little bit longer. I started to gain weight after quitting those drugs. My appetite came back. I got up to a healthier weight, but I don't know. I was eating way too much of that free food at McDonald's, right? So my next problem here is I just started to not really like my appearance, I guess. I noticed my face getting chubby. I started to get like a little belly going on. I could put some pictures up on screen if I could find them. If not, just ignore that. I'll see if I have any. But I had the great idea to get a membership, and my first gym was Planet Fitness. So I get a membership at Planet Fitness. At this point, I'm around 18 years old, and I had that first initial spike to work out. I mean, a lot of you can relate to that. You get this random drive. It's like, I want to fix myself. So I capitalize on it, and I just step into the gym. I didn't look up a damn thing. I just stepped into the gym, and I just do everything I could remember from hearing like workout information here and there in my life, right? Just doing like chest, back, arms, and then I got like a leg day. And I did this 5 days a week, and I was extremely consistent with it. Like I saw it through, and that consistency paid off because I started seeing a little bit of results just from doing that and eating less by cooking my own meals at home. And as soon as I saw just a little bit of results, just like my arms getting like firmer, more defined, like my first little sign of like abdominal muscles, I just got like so hooked on it, because this is really all it takes. Like, you do not need to be results orientated. Like, you need to be process orientated with something like fitness, because the results are going to come through as long as you're process orientated. And once you see those results, you are hooked, like straight up. So they came way faster than I expected. And like this was great. I mean, like I remember like seeing that progress, and I actually quit my job because I wanted to focus on the gym a little bit more. I don't really recommend doing this, obviously, but I mean, I was like an 18-year-old still at my parents' house, and I was just like, dude, I want to go all in on the gym. So I did. And that would only last a little bit before I get a new job because I missed having money, but I did have a bit saved up from that McDonald's job. So yeah, I'll definitely put up a picture here of how I looked around then. I got pretty fucking shredded. I'm not gonna lie. It's always been easy for me to diet down. I got honestly too shredded by accident. I didn't know this, but I was starving myself and I dipped into an underweight, like unhealthy body weight. But excuse me, I quickly corrected that. So yeah, I fell in love with lifting, and after this time, lifting just became my rock in life. And no matter what I started going through, I would always have the gym to look forward to and to improve my mood. And having something like that in your life, it doesn't have to be the gym, but having a rock, like a hobby that you really enjoy, that you can do every single day or as much as you want, that just sets you up for success for the day. This is just necessary, right? So I wanted to learn a little bit more about lifting. So this was like a year and a half in. I was making some great gains, but I wanted to learn some more. So I employed this coach, this guy I found on YouTube. Maybe I could shout him out in the comments. I mean, if y'all want to check his content out, it's great. His name's Jeffrey Verity Schofield. His name always messes me up, right? But I will link to his channel in the comments. And yeah, he made me a program. He gave me a little bit of tips here and there. Coaching was great, and I was doing great in the gym after that. I ran into a little bit of plateaus here and there. I still wasn't doing anything close to like perfect training, but my progress was significant. And I'll put another picture up on screen here. So my physical health was great. My goals of going to the gym paid off, but my mental health was not all the way there yet. Not at all. Around this time is when I got formally diagnosed. My diagnosis was with ADHD, CPTSD, which is complex PTSD, and autism. And and this is, I guess, I could tie this back into that gym cell thing earlier. I looked great, and I had people flirting with me all the time. The gym made me look amazing, but despite that, I still could not socialize whatsoever. I know a lot of you can relate to this, but yeah, there was that. Like, I looked amazing, but like women would talk to me and I would just be like, oh God, fuck, like I don't know what to do, right? And I mean, I guess my happiness level, it still wasn't all the way there yet. But I knew that I was actively undoing some of that damage. I was going to therapy. Highly recommend if you're like dealing with any significant mental trouble. And I looked at a bunch of online self-help content. I recommend that, but be very careful with what you fall into. There's a lot of rabbit holes. Never buy into one guru. Always question what they're saying. Like, if you're gonna look into any online self-help content, you need to be an active listener and you need to be a great critical thinker, because some of these people will feed you bullshit and it's like a cult, right? Anyways, I decided at this time I want to learn more about psychology because, one, my own mental health, and then two, I want to figure out what the fuck is going on with my dad and just like other people in my life who have mistreated me, right? So I go to this online community college and I start working on my psychology degree. And I was able to pass with like flying colors. I graduate 4.0 with an associate's, nothing crazy. And I don't think I'm ever going to get a job with that degree. I'm in school right now for nursing. That's going to pay the bills, right? But I think that getting this degree helped me so much. Like, it helped me like personally to get out of my own mental pit, and it's allowed me to help others get out of their mental pit. And I think that's honestly more valuable than the fucking degree I'm going for now. So it was a great time studying psychology. And then, yeah, other than that, I guess another thing, if you saw the photos earlier, you'll realize at that time I looked extremely different. It doesn't even look like the same person, right? And this is something I want to touch on more in another video, as I said earlier, with my gender identity. But I presented very traditionally masculine, and I was really trying to be someone I wasn't. I think that I could attribute this to some of the self-help content that I was seeing. A lot of the self-help content for men it's great and all, right? But they lean way too much into the masculine aspects, right? And they act like you have to present as like this strong like warrior and like all of that type of stuff. It appeals to guys. And I had facial hair. But honestly, like, I did. It's not that I looked bad, but the way I looked did not match how I feel on the inside. And I really think that's the goal with gender identity. you need to match your appearance to your spirit. That's the number one thing with it all, if you ask me, right? So I just want to touch on that. I'm gonna expand on it in a later video, absolutely. So time passes on, and still after school, I've been neglecting my social life. I mean, I have a bunch of online friends that I talk to. I still talk to nowadays, and they're great. But in real life, I don't really have a great social life. At this point, I was able to get things at my home pretty peaceful. My dad ended up being very proud of me going to the gym. He knew I had explained to him what was going on with the substance use, and he's a bit proud of me. Although I still can't talk to the guy without him arguing at me, right? So I just kind of sit there in my room and isolate from my family, and I find that to be a better alternative than trying to make peace with them for now. I was eventually able to make peace with them in the future, but I would just isolate for the time being because having that peace was more valuable than like taking a risk to try to improve my relationship with them at this point. I still feel like pretty depressed. It's improving by the day at this point, but I did have this constant feeling of dissociation and kind of like incapability, fear of talking to people, and like a little bit of depression, despite how I looked on the outside. I think that this feeling kind of came from one presenting the wrong way, as I talked about earlier, but I think that it also came from my lack of social connections. Like I was just kind of isolated everywhere, and I was just like aura farming, but that doesn't really like, it's not what life is about, right, guys? So I get started on my social life. I go on Twitter, and I go on there with the single goal of making friends and finding like-minded people. So I'm on Twitter. I'm being funny on Twitter, but realistically, all the jokes that I was telling were me turning like my loneliness, my struggles with my gender identity, and like my dissociation into a more comfortable to consume format, right? And through this, I'm able to meet some like-minded people, and I immediately start feeling better, right? Having people like who can relate to my issues with gender identity, and having people that like I could sit there and just talk to about this stuff. It was huge, right? It helped me a ton. I was in a bunch of small like Discord friend groups, just tight knit servers. I became very close with like everybody I met. I still talk to them nowadays. I hold them very, very close to my heart, and I'm like very happy that they fucking adopted me off of Twitter and took me in and helped me out, right? And then at this time, I do try my hand at some like long distance relationships, which wouldn't be the first time that I got into one of those, but I'll give you the short version. They're not for me. None of them really worked out. So I give up on those. So yeah, I'm enjoying these online friendships. I'm improving myself with them. Like we're having a great time online, but this made me hungry to find some friends in the real world. Me failing at those online relationships made me hungry to find some real world friends. So I'm like, how can I do this? Okay, well, in Vegas, like everybody fucking does the nightlife, right? I mean, the only thing that these Vegas people know is the nightlife. So I'm like, fuck it, let's try it, right? And this is something that's villainized a lot nowadays. But every weekend, I go to the club, I get a little bit drunk, and I just start dancing and talking to people. And this this made me a ton of friends, man. Like, God, like, I guess you have to really find the right places to hang around. Some of these clubs are terrible. You won't meet anyone in there. It's expensive to get in. The music sucks. But if you can find your scene and you can go in there and just start talking to people, like, you will make friends. You will get a great social circle. You don't even really have to get these people on social media. You will just see them around if you're consistent with going out to the same places, right? So that's what I did. Alcohol is another thing it's villainized like crazy nowadays. Gen Z doesn't really drink, right? But I didn't really struggle with alcohol use. My addictive personality just didn't apply to it and still doesn't, right? And I feel like it was actually able to loosen me up and help me socialize. And the things I said while drunk, I would remember while sober because I wasn't getting like fucking blasted or anything. So I remember these experiences and I'm like, wow, you could just like talk to people. Like you could just say things, right? And like they won't get mad at you. Like, and I mean, you could actually like make them laugh and shit. Like I became a lot less shut in because of those drunk nights out with me talking to people. And so that went well and I made a lot of friends. And I decided then I'm gonna make a Tinder account. And once again, online dating, right? Like these dating apps, completely fucking villainized by everybody, and a lot of people have a horrible experience on there. But I think that if you have a horrible experience on these dating apps, it comes down to your mindset around them. Because I relate to a lot of the things where, like, you know, you click like on people, get ghosted, all of this, just constant rejection, all of that. But I didn't go into it with the mindset that I was actually going to find my partner on there. I treated Tinder as like a training ground. This was like the gym, but for learning how to talk to women, right? So I'm on Tinder. I'm going on dates here and there, and this further just dissolves that like social anxiety in my mind that I had at that time. It worked beautifully. Like just interacting with people on Tinder, little like short-term dating, short-term like hookup culture. There you go. Another thing that's like all evil, right? But going into that stuff with the right mindset, it actually just improved my life dramatically. So I think that just being able to adapt to your environment, this modern environment, and all of the tools and technology we have nowadays is key. I think nothing should be villainized. I think you should try to go into everything with like an open mind, and you need to go into it with a mindset where you know that you're not going to hurt yourself, because these things can fuck up your life really bad if you go into them with the wrong mindset. So just be careful with that. So after this, I have a great social life. I end up meeting my girlfriend at the club. Everything's going great there. Nowadays I consider myself like an interesting person. I'm able to like hold conversations. I'm able to go talk to strangers, and yeah, I mean it all worked out. And I mean obviously the whole time, I haven't touched on the gym in a minute, but yeah, I've had the gym as like the rock in my life, and I mean like this is what like kind of kept my mood up the whole time, right? Just on like the bad days, the gym would fix my mood. I always had something to look forward to every day, and I think if that wasn't there, I probably wouldn't have started building these other blocks to fix my life. It just, during this feeling of like dissociation and like learning to socialize, like learning to like work at a job, learning to do all this stuff, I think that it just grounded me to reality. From there, I don't have too much else to say. I pretty much became the person I am today. Hello. And I think that like the depression from the lack of socialization and the way that I was misrepresenting myself with my appearance is just kind of gone. And now that everything's in place, I'm really just living life. I would say like, yeah, I see what life is really about now, and it's beautiful. Like even the terrible days, because like everybody has their bad days still, I could still enjoy them, right? I could enjoy the beauty and the struggle. I love how I look now. I mean, I love how I act. I think I'm funny. I feel smart, and I just feel like well put together. I feel intelligent, and I feel like capable of doing things. And I mean, I feel like I came from a terrible place that a lot of people like struggle to recover from, but I think that anybody can do it. Yeah, I still have like more room to grow. I'm kind of like tooting my own horn a bit in that last paragraph, right? But I'm just still constantly addicted to that feeling of progression. Like I am always looking for ways to improve myself. I think YouTube is going to be something that really helps with that. Like I mean, so far I'm loving the process of like sitting here talking to the camera. I'll get into a little bit of editing, like, you know, I I guess I'll bother myself with a little bit of editing. Like, look at me, I put some pictures up on this video. But I'm always looking for opportunities to improve, and I'm just happy to be a more functioning human being. The last thing that I'll say here before we wrap this one up, goddamn, 43 minutes already. But the trauma. I mean, I've been able to reframe this trauma, and this is the reason that I don't want any pity or any like sorry that happened to you comments. I've been able to reframe this trauma into a positive. Everything I talked about in this video, I don't know how else to put this, but all the bad shit, I'm happy that I went through it. I completely mean that. Like, it sounds absolutely ridiculous to be happy about like addiction and bullying and SA, all that stuff. But honestly, nowadays, after having gone through that stuff, I could see how different my perspective is on life from others, right? In some good ways and some negative ways. But I think that seeing things from this perspective that I gained is actually just more of a net benefit. I think that it's a huge benefit, and like I feel like ahead of my peers in a lot of ways because I just look at things differently. I attribute that feeling to all the terrible things I went through that a lot of people can't relate to. So once you reframe trauma in that way, if you can, I mean, I'm sure there's other ways of doing it in a healthy way, but once you reframe it like that, how can you even be upset about it anymore? Like, point blank period, I guess. Anyways, we'll wrap it up here, guys. I know the video dragged on extremely long. Like, hopefully you were like listening to it in the background while you do something else, because that's how I tend to consume these type of videos. But thank you again for watching. I will be back again soon with another video. I plan to keep uploads like very regular on here. They're going to be pretty sporadic because it's going to be like whenever I feel like type of thing. It's not like my Instagram or like my other sites where I try to like maintain a once a day thing going on. But it's been a lot of fun, and I do plan to like keep uploading regularly. Videos are going to be more like that 3 to 10 minute mark. But on this one, I wanted to give like a proper introduction of myself, my background, and for the channel, just so you guys can know who I am and know who you're listening to, right? So anyways, I'll see you in the next one.